Okay, so if you've ever walked through a public park or even just tried to landscape under a really big, thirsty tree, you know the headache,
Oh, yeah, the dry shade.
the dry shade. It is an absolute landscaping nightmare. Today, we're going to dive deep into a solution that's kind of hidden in plain sight,
Mm.
the dwarf umbrella tree, or Schefflera arboricola.
It really is. It's one of those plants that feels so common, so ubiquitous that we almost forget to look at it as a genuine high-performance tool for landscaping.
Right.
And so for this deep dive, we're going to frame it as a really focused look at how this one low-maintenance plant can become, well, an absolute superstar, especially in tricky tropical landscapes.
Yeah, where everything is competing for water and sun.
Exactly.
So our source material for this is a great set of field notes from an author named Eng. It's called Notes on Gardening, part 717.
Mhm.
And our mission here is to basically shortcut you to the practical knowledge, digging into Eng's real-world observations and distilling why this plant is such a robust solution for some really, really tough garden spots.
And Aang starts with their own personal story, which I think really sets the stage for the plant's resilience. They mentioned buying a variegated dwarf umbrella tree pretty early on in their gardening journey.
Just sort of exploring different species.
Yeah, just exploring. And they classify it, right away as a dependable shrub.
Mm-hmm.
And that first purchase is what sort of paves the way for realizing its true power.
It does, because they planted it in this corner of the front yard.
Mm.
And here's the key finding that just screams hardiness. It was growing well with, and this is a quote, only occasional watering.
Which is huge.
I think the real surprise in Eng's notes wasn't just that it survived. I mean, a lot of things can survive. It's how effortlessly it was surviving in a climate where everything else just demands constant attention.
That phrase, only occasional watering, that is such a massive indicator of hardiness, especially in a tropical climate. You have plants that need water every single day in that kind of heat.
Right.
So for anyone who's managing a large piece of land like a park or, commercial property, drought tolerant just translates directly into lower costs. Less water, less labor.
So when we say it's drought tolerant and exceptionally hardy, let's dig into the why.
Mhm.
What makes the Schefflera arboricola different on a botanical level? Most tropical shrubs just collapse without a steady stream of water.
Well, a lot of it comes down to the leaves themselves. They have this thick, almost waxy coating on them.
The cuticle, right.
Exactly, the waxy cuticle. And that structure is so important because it minimizes how much water the plant loses through transpiration. It's basically a built-in defense against dry air and heat.
So it's holding on to its moisture.
It's holding on tight. And beyond that, we can infer that a plant like this probably develops a really deep, fibrous root system very quickly.
Ah, so it's going deeper for water.
Mm-hmm. It can tap into those deeper soil moisture pockets that other fussier ground covers with shallow roots just can't get to.
That makes perfect sense. That explains the whole robust, low-maintenance option thing. It's just built for survival.
It is.
But, survival is one thing. Strategic performance is something else entirely. And Eng's biggest insight didn't come from their own yard. It came from watching what the professionals were doing.
Absolutely. This is where the story shifts.
Mm-hmm.
It goes from the success of one little plant in a yard to seeing this pattern out in the public space.
In the city, yeah.
On city streets, in parking lots.
Mm.
Eng realized that local landscapers had already figured out the Schefflera's true purpose. This is where it goes from just a common shrub to a real landscape problem solver.
And the problem it's solving is, I would argue, one of the most frustrating things in all of gardening, the understory problem. Before we get to Eng's observation, can you just define why planting under big, mature trees is such a challenge?
Sure. It's not just about shade. It's a specific, really destructive microclimate that we call dry shade.
Dry shade.
You have two huge forces working against anything you plant there. First, obviously the tree canopy blocks the light, so the plants underneath are starved for energy. But second, and this is the killer, the tree's massive root system acts like a giant sponge,
Sucking up everything.
sucking up every drop of moisture and most of the nutrients before the little plants can even get to them.
That competition is just brutal. I mean, most of the plants we try to stick in those spots, grass, little perennials, they either get fried from the lack of water or they die from the lack of light. You just end up with bare dirt.
Exactly, just bare, neglected-looking ground.
Yeah.
And that dry shade is where Aang had the aha moment.
Mm.
They saw the Schefflera being used, but not as a single specimen plant. It was being used in a mass grouping,
Yeah.
and the location was key. It was always in the shaded area, the understory, right underneath a big, mature tree.
So they were weaponizing its natural abilities.
That's a great way to put it.
They were strategically using its drought tolerance to solve that dry shade problem at a huge scale. It's actually, it's pretty ingenious when you think about it.
And the mass planting is so critical. You're not just asking one plant to survive. You're creating a living, breathing, resilient texture that covers the ground. It guarantees cover in a place that almost nothing else can handle without just, unsustainable amounts of irrigation.
And it's not just functional, right? Eng also talks about the visual result. When you plant them in this dense mass, the aesthetic impact was huge. It created a wonderfully lush, dense layer of foliage.
And that density is the secret sauce for the look. A few sparse plants just look sickly.
Right, it looks like a mistake.
Yeah, but the Schefflera wants to layer on itself. And remember, Eng's first plant was the variegated kind. Imagine mass planting that. You get this amazing textural contrast, light and dark greens, and it actively brightens up what would otherwise be a really gloomy corner under a tree.
So it's solving the bare dirt problem, too, which, especially in tropical zones, means you're avoiding mud, dust, or just, a ton of weeds popping up.
And eliminating that bare dirt saves so much time and money. It suppresses weeds, it stabilizes the soil, and it gives this consistent, cohesive look. Eng even noted that the foliage layer complements the established tree.
It's not just filler.
Not at all. It acts as this beautiful transitional layer, bridging the huge trunk of the tree down to the lawn or the garden bed. It just defines the edge perfectly.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening and looking for smart garden solutions? I think Eng's conclusion is the big takeaway. They suggest that the dwarf umbrella tree should be seriously explored for open garden designs, specifically using this mass planting technique.
What Eng is really showing us is that you don't have to fight that difficult microclimate. You don't have to force it. The takeaway is that this plant is incredibly effective at filling out those challenging shaded areas, and it does it without needing expensive ongoing care.
Okay, but I do want to ask a critical question here. If this plant is so great, so robust, why don't we see this approach everywhere? Are there limitations that maybe Eng didn't note, like invasiveness or climate boundaries?
That's a vital point.
Yeah.
The Schefflera is tough, but its application here is really limited to tropical and subtropical zones.
It can't handle a freeze.
Not at all. It won't tolerate a hard freeze, so for our listeners in colder climates, you'll have to find another solution for your dry shade. And as for invasiveness, while it's vigorous, when you use it in this kind of managed, contained way.
Surrounded by a lawn or pavement.
Right. It usually prevents it from becoming a problem. You're using its natural vigor for containment, not fighting against it.
That really contextualizes its brilliance. It's a hero for the tropical zone that offers huge savings just by choosing a plant that's already adapted to thrive under those specific pressures.
It perfectly summarizes the insight. Use the right plant for the right and often difficult microclimate. You're not forcing a plant to survive. You're choosing a partner that thrives where other plants fail.
So this deep dive, based on Eng's really sharp observations, it's clarified two main things for me. First, the Schefflera arboricola is durable and drought tolerant, which is a must-have in the tropics. And second, its real value lies in its ability to be mass-planted to just effectively cover that nasty, dry, shaded understory with a lush, consistent green layer.
It's a powerful lesson in, seeing the ordinary with new eyes and just appreciating the performance of a reliable workhorse plant.
Absolutely. And that leaves us with one final thought for you to consider. If a plant we all know, a common shrub like the dwarf umbrella tree, can solve such a persistent gardening problem so effectively, well, where else in our landscapes might these robust, low-maintenance solutions be hiding in plain sight?
Just waiting for the right application.
Maybe it's time we stop looking for the high-maintenance star of the show and start appreciating the low-profile champion.
Go take a look at your own understory.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.